Another edition of Picks and Roll coming your way, and a good afternoon, everybody. I am Sean Brace, joined as always, Sixers insider for the Gambler, Sean Barnard, covers all things NBA for us as well. He is the in-season guru. He is the guy I go to when I have all these questions, like why are they fouling Andre Drummond? Why are they getting upset? All that and more. Look, yesterday was exciting. A lot of those games came down to the wire. They had some crazy comebacks. The in-season tournament might not be hitting for a lot of people out there, Sean. I didn't think we'd dive into this because the Sixers are playing the Pelicans. But I saw a tweet from somebody yesterday saying, like, I'd hold off on, the celebration just yet if I'm the NBA about how this tournament's really taken off because they weren't feeling it. I think the players are. And I think that's where it starts. If they're feeling it, then eventually everybody else is going to catch up again. Year one, we're not even halfway into this bad boy, if I'm not mistaken. So, again, last night, though, you saw that these players absolutely are thinking about the in-season tournament standpoint, not just a regular season game.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the points that I've made with the in-season tournament is I think the coolest parts of it we have not reached yet. And now we're starting to get towards that there were a bunch of numbers that people were focused on and making sure that they made the crunch with the tiebreakers and everything else last night. And we now do have our team set in stone. So out of the Western Conference, it's going to be Lakers versus Suns and Kings versus Pelicans. And then out of the Eastern Conference, it's going to be Bucks versus Knicks and Pacers versus Celtics. So we do have a little bit of our bracket now set in stone. These are going to be the elimination games that matter. So going to be some fun basketball. I do think it is up the intensity, and that's exactly what the NBA's goal was. So for me, it's been a success so far, and I do really believe like the coolest parts of this in-season tournament are about to happen starting now.
DraftKings Sportsbook, where we get all of our odds from. Right now, the NBA in-season tournament winner, the odds, the Celtics 3-1, Bucks plus 340, Lakers plus 550, Sacramento Kings plus 550, the Suns, plus 650 for the Suns. Pels are 12-1, Pacers 13-1, Knicks 14-1. I don't know. You just tell me what your thoughts are, and from those teams' standpoint, would you be all about Boston? What's the path again? Do you have that as far as the tournament breakdown is concerned? Who's got to take on who? Because right now Celtics are 3-1, but I like the Suns plus 650.
Yeah, and the Suns will be facing the Lakers, so that'll be that matchup, and then the Pacers versus Celtics. The other two matchups being the Bucks versus Knicks and Kings versus Pelicans. I kind of have a feeling about the Pacers in this tournament, that they're a team on an any night basis that they can run a team out of the gym. That I think in a 7-game series, they have some holes that teams can pick on, but just the pace that they play with, the way they can take control of a game, I kind of like the Pacers in this tournament.
Wow.
So I'm kind of buying the stock on this. And then long term, I'm really curious kind of the correlation between the teams that really compete and win the in-season tournament. How correlated is that to the teams that go deep in the playoffs or have a real chance at a championship there? I think there is going to be a slight difference there. And the Pacers, to me, strike me as a team that can really kind of plow through this by catching every team on a night down. They play with some of the fastest pace I've ever seen a team play basketball, and Tyrese Halliburton at the core of all of it. So I do kind of like the Pacers at that number there, and that's one that intrigues me for sure.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that one. A 13-1. That is interesting. All right. Also from last night, just real quick on this, as I said, we got Pelicans and Sixers to discuss. No in-season tournament for us. However, the Pelicans, different story there. From last night, though, one game that we discussed on yesterday's Picks and Roll was the Sacramento Kings and Golden State Warriors. Sean, we got home for the Flyers game. I turned it on. I didn't have much life in me. I was passing out. I had one eye open in that second half, and it was a 20-plus point deficit by the Sacramento Kings at home against the Warriors. How the hell did they come back to win that game in the fourth quarter? They outscored them by 10 in the fourth. I think 18 total in the second half as a whole. Again, that's the Golden State Warriors. And you want to talk about a player that was distraught. I don't know if it was the in-season tournament, the fact that they lost the way that they did. Steph Curry was shook in last night's press conference. That's crazy how the Kings were able to come back. I don't know if you were able to catch it in great detail. What was your thought in that comeback?
Yeah, I know we talked a little bit about this yesterday, and I said kind of to, relax on the concern for the Warriors. Last night was the type of loss that does racket up my concern a little bit. And beyond just the blowing the lead, having the comeback, all these things, it feels like there's a little bit of internal, I just guess, frustrations. Klay Thompson was a guy that jumped out to me at the end of that game when you watch that Steph Curry taking that kind of hero three-pointer, which of course he's Steph Curry and has the right to do at this point in his career. But you see the frustration from Klay, who was open and seemed to want the shot there. There's a lot of internal boiling with Klay Thompson as far as he's playing for a contract this year. There's quite a bit of distance between the Warriors and Klay on what that looks like. And when those kind of, I don't want to say selfish reasons, but I guess individual reasons sneak into teams, that there start to be some complications. We saw this happen with Draymond a little bit too, with Jordan Poole and that whole complication. So there is some interesting, I guess, sub stories to this Warriors team that I think are starting to show on the court. I don't think that's the reason they lost last night by any means. I think the Kings are the real deal, and they're a team that competes incredibly hard. Malik Monk, incredible shot. The one that was the go away game winner there. That was something that was like a horse shot that he hit, just one legged falling off the backboard and in. So,
Ugly.
and yeah, very ugly. But you know what? It counts all the same. So it is a credit to the Kings for finding a way to sneak that one out. But yeah, I'm starting to watch the Warriors with a little bit more careful eye than I originally was.
And last night, one of the games, or one of the players we discussed as far as the issues with the Golden State Warriors, was Wiggins, and he went off last night. He had 10 boards. I'm just looking at assists. He had 3 assists. He had 29 points, so 29 and 10 for Andrew Wiggins, 11-18 from the field. He was 2 of 5 from downtown, played 36 minutes. If they're going to get that production from Andrew Wiggins, I think that's going to calm a lot over there in the Bay Area.
Yeah, and they do need that because he has been quiet to start this year. A couple reports about him not being the top of the line fitness coming in the season, which has caused some frustrations there. So that's the way to shut all that up, is by playing well, dropping a 29 spot. And the Warriors just need that production. That with the loss of Jordan Poole, they need guys to step up and be able to put the ball in the basket. So as much as Poole had his deficiencies and still does as a player quite a bit, Wiggins is a guy that's expected to eat a little bit more on the offensive end. So nice to see him step up and do that. I think in the long term, he's a guy that I don't have concerns about. He'll be fine, but I think the Warriors are happy to see that.
And man, those gambling gods can be cruel sometimes, because if you were on the Sacramento Kings and had to sit that one out as they come all the way back and they only win by a point, and I'm looking here, most places, most shops, 1.5.
Yeah.
Never get beat by the hook. Always words to live by. Some people would disagree with me on that. That's just something that I always say and always do most of the time. With that, absolutely. With 1.5, I'll probably take the money line. I think most people should. But, you know, anytime you get into that world of 3.5 by the hook, half point down to 3, 6.5, same thing, 6, stupid stuff like that. But even if it's 5.5, 4.5, because you kick yourself in the ass if you lose by that half a point, it just sucks. You give yourself an opportunity for that extra juice, at least to go home with a push. All right. Anyways, from there, let's keep it moving. Anything else from last night? Look, the Andre Drummond situation, being fouled against Boston. Anything there with that? Like, should we be paying attention to that? Is that going to come into your mind when we're gambling on these in-season tournament games, or does none of that matter anymore because it's just do or die?
Yeah, I definitely think it's something to keep in mind. At this point, it's pretty much in the past. This is more something to keep in mind for next year with the qualifying out of the group stage. Last night, as far as the numbers is how it applied to gambling, I don't think it correlated a ton. Like in the specific example for the Celtics game, the Celtics need to win by 23 points to ensure that they qualified. So they had that number focused. That's why they went in and starting to automatically foul Andre Drummond with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Drummond, a pretty bad free throw shooter, shot 1 for 6 last night. So the job was successful by Joe Mazzulla there. There was a little bit of back and forth between Mazzulla and Billy Donovan on the sideline where they kind of were going at each other. And I understand it from both sides here. I do respect Mazzulla kind of laying it out and saying like, look, here's the reason why we're doing it. Not trying to run up the score, be disrespectful, but we are trying to qualify for this. And the job ultimately was accomplished, that they won 124-97. So they did clear that 24-point barrier that they did have to do. That is going to be something interesting. We are seeing some hurt feelings around the NBA. I've seen a couple quotes flying around. I personally love that that's a thing that they do the point differential. I hate when teams are dribbling it out to the end. I like when guys go to the final whistle even when the game's over. So I'm happy that is a part of it. It does make the ending of these games a little wild. And down the line, there will be some implications from the gambling standpoint of a team needing to win by a certain point, keeping that in mind with the spread. All of last night's were pretty much 20-point plus differentials, so not something that really tied together there, but definitely something to keep in mind moving forward.
Well, yeah, that was a 12.5-point spread for Boston. So if in the back of our minds, we knew that they needed to get to that number, I'm sure that there were people out there honing in on that and were able to cash in. So nice work on that. I'm not saying it's going to play out that way, but, you know, Boston, Chicago.
little alternate spread, even if you're kind of keeping an eye on that. That's the way to really juice it
Interesting.
up. Yeah.
Well, again, we're all going to learn. This is year one, and we'll see what changes they make. But definitely something that'll be in the back of my mind moving forward. Anything else from last night's games for you?
That was pretty much most of it for me. I know we enjoyed the Flyers game together, checking that out there. It's a little bit of a different sport experience for me, but yeah, I think the Warriors and Kings were the biggest takeaway of last night for sure.
Sean Barnard said at the game last night that he was somewhat more impressed with the refs than the players on the ice, because it was true that you brought that up. Those refs were dodging and diving
Yeah.
and getting out of the way, not only from a puck coming at their head, but these players that are just flying all over the place. And I don't know. It's not to say that I never came across impressed about, because I am a partial towards a ref guy. I came up and was a high school umpire and all that, and never will ever be an umpire or a referee for anything basketball related. Tried to do that and was like, nope, no, you're not paying me enough to deal with that nonsense. But hockey is a whole different world from a
Oh, yeah.
referee standpoint. So good work by you on that one, pulling that one out. All
Yeah,
right, let's get go for it.
not the biggest hockey guy in general. I'll be the first one to say that. But yeah, these referees, man, the skating backward, jumping over the puck. I was impressed. The players know where they're going. The referees are adapting to that. So, a little tip of the cap to them for getting the job done and staying out of the way.
All right, let's get to it. Picks and roll on to what we got going on this evening. 7 games on the DraftKings board here, of course. Number one on the board, the Philadelphia 76ers and the New Orleans Pelicans, going off at 8 p.m. live from down in the Bayou, Bourbon Street, right off of Bourbon Street. I love New Orleans. Great time down there 2 times. You were looking at 12-5 76ers, 500 New Orleans Pelicans. Of course, the last time we saw the Sixers, they went off and lumped up the LA Lakers by 44, handing LeBron James his worst loss ever in an NBA uniform. New Orleans, though, they ended up losing to Utah Monday night. Tough loss there at Utah by 2. And they were both the Sixers were able to win on 3-pointers, and the Pelicans lost basically because they weren't able to hit 3-pointers. New Orleans made a season low 7 3-pointers in 22 attempts, while Utah was 17 of 48. So let's start there from the 3-point standpoint with the success that the Sixers just had. If you're Nick Nurse, and we know what Nick Nurse's background is that your plan of attack here? Like, hey, look, we know what Utah did. We know they struggled shooting a 3. Let's go down there. Let's see if we can continue to hit like we did against the Lakers. Would you assume Nick Nurse is going to have that approach tonight?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a part of that. One thing to note is CJ McCollum will be returning to the lineup for the Pelicans, so that will be a help there. He had a collapsed lung, so he's been out a couple weeks now. This will be his first time back on the court. That's going to help with the 3-point volume right there, and that's going to be a big part of the Pelicans starting to see those numbers increase again. But that's definitely the focus of these Sixers is chasing guys off 3-point line. A lot of just frantic defensive rotations, the way they do that, funnel guys into Joel Embiid. Jonas Valanciunas is a big man that is not afraid to step outside and shoot the 3 as well. So that's going to be interesting how they try and guard Embiid with that. Embiid's very disinterested in guarding the 3-point line. That I understand his primary role is as a rim protector, but the Sixers are a team that are pretty vulnerable to giving up a lot of volume from threes. I like that the Pelicans aren't a team that capitalize on that in general. So I like the Sixers in tonight's matchup, that I think that they are going to win this 3-point battle. It's clear offensively that they have a focus of getting more volume up from behind the line, which I think they should. So I think this works out in the Sixers' favor as far as how the teams match up.
Interesting. All right. We'll fire up DraftKings. We'll take a look at some of the numbers that matter here. As I said, 2-point favorites on the road tonight. From the player point standpoint, of course, Joel Embiid just had a triple-double, back at 32.5, locked in there at -115 from the point standpoint. Tyrese, 26.5. But I got to be honest with you, though, Sean, the first name that jumps up the board on me more than anybody, it's Zion with 23.5 here. Zion's had some history, some good history against the Sixers, correct? And do you like that number 23.5 here?
Yeah, I'm intrigued. Zion, he's a guy that, like, when he's been on the court, he's been very good. It's the moments that he has not been on the court and him not playing that has been the issue. That it has never really been him not producing when he's on there. It's just how often that he is. So that number does intrigue me. I don't think he's a particularly good matchup for Joel, or if they want to throw Tobias on him, that he is a freak athletically, and that gets thrown around a lot, but he truly fits that bill as far as the way he moves at his size, how explosive he is. So I do kind of like that number. I'm curious. It feels like they're still kind of figuring out the pecking order of things in New Orleans, and with CJ McCollum now coming back in the fold, how much that changes things. But he's averaging over 33 points per game in his matchups with the Sixers. I believe they've only faced off twice against Embiid specifically. So he's gone over that number there. I do like him to hit that number. Unfortunately, he's fun to watch, man. Like I think he's a guy who's gotten a little too much hate throughout the whole process of everything. I hope he stays healthy. I hope he stays on the floor, and he's delivered when he has been. So I think tonight's gonna be more of the same.
Yeah, I'm a big Zion fan. Always was. Going back 15 years to when he was on Instagram, when he was that Instagram sensation. That was like one of the dude. And I'm just like, wow. And from that day, followed him, been pulling for him, even with Duke, and he blew the shoe out, loved it. There was a big three-headed monster with the Blue Devils. They didn't win anything, but still a lot of fun to watch. And, no fault but his own, of course, with the weight, dealing with that situation. I don't think he was – I think the team held him back a lot too, as we know, front and center here at the 76ers, how front offices can do that. But I don't think he did himself any favors by jumping out on the what did he do the one time when he was hurt? Next thing he comes out, pride score, and does the 360. It's like, all right, dude, if you can do that, then go play. But that's the front office. Yeah, I'm a huge Zion guy, and definitely his box office when he's healthy, ready to go. Another thing that has worked against Zion was the fact that Ja Morant was the guy taken after him, and Ja was just before all this nonsense with Ja Morant and that off the court issues that he's still dealing with as he's suspended. Ja had that lovable image, man, and he was a showman himself. Like to me, I was always saying, like, could you imagine if both of these guys are at their A+, stepping out in the court playing 70+ games every year, the NBA is going to be in great hands. And then, unfortunately, look where we're at right now with Ja. Hopefully he's able to get his act together. But Zion, for the most part, has looked good. Back to that number, though, Sean, last 5 games, he's gone over 23.5 in all 5 games here. I'll give it to you real quick. At Utah, he scored 26. Previous to that, Clippers, 32. Previous to that, I think that's San Antonio 25 or Sacramento, excuse me. Sacramento 25, Sacramento 26, and then Denver 26. They get the points all the way down there. Bring them close. Come on, Basketball Reference. So look, I mean, he's on a tear. He's going over that number. It's juiced up at minus 130. It's definitely a leg for me in a same game parlay here on DraftKings. I'm going to take a flyer on Zion. I'm curious, though, when you talk about CJ coming back, McCollum, like, what are we talking about production-wise for him? Is there going to be any hurdles he needs to clear, or do you think he's going to get in there and play 30-plus minutes tonight?
Yeah, I would think for the most part, this is the type of injury that once you're healthy enough to come back, you pretty much have free reign. That a collapsed lung is obviously a little different than anything like a sprained ankle or something like that you're kind of nursing its way back. Not a lot concrete from the betting standpoint. I don't see his numbers popping up for McCollum right now, so I'm curious what those come out to be. But I do think he's going to guy that specifically the 3-pointers is probably what I would have my eyes on for him. That he's going to be the guy that's supposed to fix these volume issues. That he's been done that throughout his career. He's been very efficient from beyond the 3-point line. I think he's been good in New Orleans for the moments that he's played, and that it hasn't felt like as a trio these guys have found their strides. Brandon Ingram more of kind of the mid-range DeMar DeRozan type of shot diet there. Zion a little more freedom to attack the rim, the guy that is explosive, the dunk threat, all that. And then CJ is kind of the floor spacer, the guy that is the 3-point launcher. He's pretty efficient in the mid-range as well, so he does get to that. So I think McCollum's going to have the ball in his hands a lot tonight. I think it's going to be a nice kind of calming presence to this team that is still pretty young for the most part. So I think McCollum's going to make a big impact, and this will be the first time that we can kind of evaluate this Pelicans team for what they are, because they came on as this young, hungry team and have kind of hit a wall and haven't been able to build off that. So hopefully starting tonight, they can start to begin to build off that, but hopefully not in the win column either.
Brandon Ingram still doing it. If you can go back, would you take Brandon Ingram or Ben Simmons?
Well, I mean, looking back now, it's obviously Brandon Ingram. It's tough to debate that. I did love him in his Duke days. I think the size concerns were overstated at the time. He is a guy that can get a bucket. He's grown as a playmaker, grown as a rebounder. I like the way that Ingram's path has kind of gone throughout his professional career. Still a shade below what I think everyone hoped he would be when we're really looking at things, but a guy that is a very good player nonetheless.
I agree with that. And tonight, as far as matching up is concerned, what's the one matchup? What are you looking for? Off the bench? Are we looking for Pat Bev to continue to do his things? Who's matching up with Ingram? What's something on the inside that you're looking for? Go in depth with that here.
how Embiid matches up with as far as Valanciunas is truly a guy that is a big man that can shoot the three, that he will step outside, space in the corner. Embiid, as I mentioned, is very just disinterested in guarding on the perimeter, and some of that scheme, some of that's Embiid. So I'm curious if they keep that like a one-on-one matchup with Embiid and Valanciunas, or if this is something that he kind of is more just staying in the paint and then having the full rotate. It's almost like it's a strange defensive set that Nick Nurse is using, but it's clearly to use Embiid as a rim protector. So curious if that creates some 3-pointers for Valanciunas. I don't think that's a bad number to look at if you're keeping an eye on that as well. And also keep an eye on the Pat Bev 3-pointers when those start to come up closer to game time. I listened to the Pat Bev podcast today, and he said how the Sixers said they want at least 5 3-point attempts from him per game. So if that's going to be the case, I mean, he hit 4 last game, so keep an eye on that.
Ooh, that's some inside information there. We like that. Thanks, Pat. Yeah, I actually caught a little bit of that as well, where he was talking about the run-in versus the Lakers, and I thought that was pretty darn funny when he was talking about, yeah, he came and he disrespected me in Chicago.
Yep. Austin
He's
Reeves,
gonna be,
baby.
yeah, Reeves, yeah, he's gonna be continuing to do that throughout the rest of his career. We love it. Pat Bev, definitely one of those guys you want on your team. You don't want to be facing. All right. So we will look for that when it gets a little closer to game time. Nothing on DraftKings just yet for CJ McCollum or Pat Bev for 3-pointers. All right. Let's go ahead and hit the rest of the card. We got 6 games to discuss. I'm going to go right to the top here because there's 2 games that jump off the page at me, and it's based off of the recent performance from these squads. First and foremost, Sacramento. They're taking on the Clippers. I guess you can go both ways on this one because we know what happened with the Clippers the last time they took the floor. They ended up losing to the Denver Nuggets, and everybody was rubbing in their face. How could you lose it? Now they're on the road in Sacramento. Sacramento coming off that huge comeback victory. They're going to be gassed tonight. They're 2-point dogs at home. I think that tells you all you need to know. I like the Clippers a lot in that game.
Yeah, I'm torn on this because I do think, like, schematically, the Kings are the type of team that can pick this Clippers team apart, but this is like the perfect spot for an emotional letdown. It definitely, a back-to-back takes a lot out of you, especially in a game like that. So I do think this is a great chance for the Clippers to get a victory in this one. But I'm staying away from that one just from the standpoint that if this was a neutral setting, an everyday game, that I really like the way that the way the Kings move off ball, the way that they play with Sabonis as the primary playmaker for a lot of their half court sets, the way that De'Aaron Fox can kind of get to his spots and with his speed. I do think this is a pretty nightmare matchup for the Clippers. So I think I'm staying away from this one. I still lean Kings a little bit, but the letdown spot is a little too big to overlook there.
Yeah, there was a lot of emotion coming into that, going into that comeback from last night. So they were able to make it happen. I'm sure the celebrations were extended just a little bit more. As I said, just not a regular season game, in-season tournament. So we'll see, though. That's the first one that jumps off the page. The second one is the Lakers, and we know why. The Lakers came in and got destroyed. LeBron James on that squad, man. There's a lot of pride. They lost by 44. They're going up against a team that's lost 14 straight, if I'm not mistaken, the Detroit Pistons. They're 7-point favorites. I think that's a good number, 229. I would definitely back the Lakers. I think it would probably be a little close, and, free throws decide it, 9-10-point victory for LA. But I like both LA teams here, both down the road. Your thoughts on the Lakers and Detroit Pistons?
Yeah, feel good about the Lakers in a bounce back spot here. I will say the Pistons are not as bad as their record indicates. That I do expect them to go on a little bit of a run at some point, and kind of they're still going to be a bad team and picking near the top of the draft, but there is some good young talent there. They're still competing hard and playing good basketball, so this isn't a team that I expect to roll over. So I think it's probably a game that stays relatively close for the first half, and then the Lakers kind of bust things open at the end. But yeah, I can't see LeBron at least getting in these guys' ears, and it does feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect or frustration within the locker room right now, but there's too much talent for them not to at least get somewhat on the same page. And a lot of guys just somewhat underperforming. When you look at D'Angelo Russell, they're missing some guys too. Roy Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, all guys, Jared Vanderbilt. So they need to get some bodies back. But that Lakers team, there's too much talent not for them to figure it out.
All right, next game up, 7 p.m. That is also at 7 p.m. Detroit and the Lakers. Let's talk about the Wizards and the Magic, who just knocked off the Pistons to, I believe, stop a 14-game loss by themselves as well, which is crazy. The Magic, though, might be the most surprising team so far this year. Would you say that the biggest surprise in the NBA, the Orlando Magic?
Magic and Rockets are probably the top two there.
Okay.
I would still probably give the edge to Rockets, but Magic are the real deal.
Interesting. All right, 12-5 Magic at home hosting the Wizards here. We're looking at a 10-point spread. Anything there for you?
Yeah, I like the Magic -10 in this one. That I do think the Wizards, like, all right, they're just a bad team. As much as I'm gonna like give the Pistons props and believe they're turning things around, I do not feel that way about the Wizards. That I do think that they're going to have some dumb plays. They're not going to play connected basketball. And then on the other side of things, the Magic are going to be a real deal playoff team this year. That I think there's a real world where they end in the top 6 in the East, probably hovering around that 6th seed. But I think they can get out of the play-in zone and just have a pure playoff spot. I mean, Paolo Banchero is the real deal. Franz Wagner continues to take leaps and bounds. They got a ton of young talent. Jalen Suggs is finally figuring it all out and is like the emotional leader on this team. I love Jalen Suggs. There's a lot to like about this Orlando Magic team. Got a ton of young talent that are figuring out. All these guys are competing. They're hungry on a night-to-night basis. And when you watch that team play, it doesn't feel like just a regular season game on a night-to-night basis. Like, these are guys diving for loose balls, getting in people's faces. They're a fun team to watch. So, yeah, I think the Magic can produce a blowout here. I like the -10 there.
So the Magic to make the playoffs right now in DraftKings Sportsbook -170,
Wow.
-170 to make the playoffs. All right, let's keep it moving. The other games that we have here, we'll just keep it quick. Let's see here as I'm all the way in a different category on DraftKings. Let's see the Suns and Raptors. Suns -3 in Toronto, 227, 740 start. Where are you at in this one?
Yeah, Kevin Durant's listed as questionable. Bradley Beal out, so injuries, I guess, is the biggest concern there. I still probably lean Suns. If Devin Booker is going to be there, I think he's good enough to kind of steer that team to a win. This Raptors team figuring things out still. Pascal Siakam starting to find his stride and play some really good ball. OG Anunoby's been underwhelming so far this year. Scotty Barnes looks like he's taking another stride. His jump shot looks legit for the first time in his career. I'm kind of saying that. So there's some good things to believe in with this Raptors team, but I think the Devin Booker factor is going to give me the edge for the Suns there. He's been the real deal this year, and the area that he's impressed me the most has been as a playmaker. Like, he's a guy who has taken it personal and putting those responsibilities on himself. On the season, he's averaging 8.9 assists per game. Devin Booker is not a guy you think of as like a primary playmaker like that, but 9 assists per game is impressive stuff. So I think Booker is going to drive that team to a victory and feel good about the Suns in that one.
All right, let's talk about the Nuggets. They're back in action after that big-time comeback win. Hopefully to get some of the big-time players back for them. Joker, lower back pain, Jamal Murray, hamstring, and Gordon, right heel strain. They were all listed as questionable. They are 0-6 on the road. How about that? 0-6 on – no. Is Houston 0-6 on the road? Where's
Not
this
that I
game?
know.
Yeah, that's what it is. So Houston is 0-6 on the road. That's
Okay.
surprising.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Did not know that. Anyways, tonight you got Denver hosting the Houston Rockets. That game is going off at 9:10 p.m. 7.5-point favorite. So I assume baked in a number is somebody's coming back. I'm sure that they know. Are you hearing anything? Is Joker back? Definitely. Where do you stand on this game?
I would assume Joker's back. It sounded like it was just kind of giving him a night off last game. And yeah, you are correct on that record that the Rockets are 8-1 at home and 0-6
Wow.
on the road this year. Denver's a tough place to play. Obviously, we know the altitude and everything that comes with that. I still think I like the +7.5 for Houston. Alperen Sengun's probably one of the better equipped players to match up with Jokic. They play a similar style as far as being the guy that can be a playmaker, being a very good rebounder. And Sengun's a guy that should be, as much as we've been praising Tyrese Maxey, Sengun deserves the same praise in that most improved kind of category and the leaps and bounds that he's taken. And he's had some success against Jokic thus far in his career. So I think I like that +7.5. I could see the Nuggets being a little hungry here. I believe they just played pretty recently too, and I'm going to fact check myself. And yeah, as of in the in-season tournament, the Rockets beat the Nuggets 105-86 just on Friday. So these teams played each other pretty recently. I see Vegas is clearly looking at this as a bounce back spot for the Nuggets, but I'm just continuing to pound the table. I think this Rockets team is the real deal. I like them to cover and keep it competitive here.
Ooh, all right. Yeah, and the most improved player market, Maxey is -1 to him, Barnes +550, Sengun is 6-1, Cam Thomas 22-1. So a big time drop off from Cam into those top three. All right, excellent stuff. We hit the board. Sean Barnard, your favorite play tonight. Give us one. Your favorite play. Which one are you circling?
I'm going to stay at home with the Philadelphia 76ers at -2. That I think this is a good matchup for them with the Pelicans. Think New Orleans is still figuring some stuff out, and I like the way that the Sixers can kind of win the 3-point battle and Embiid do his thing. So yeah, give me the -2 for the Sixers tonight.
All right, we got some comments here. Sorry about that. Did not mean to exclude you guys from the conversation here. Joe checking in. How far is Oubre from playing in any word from the hit and run bicycle accident?
Yeah, no word on the exact technicalities of what happened as far as anything from the police side of things there. As far as him returning to the floor, it sounds pretty promising. He's not going to play tonight, but it sounds like even as soon as in Boston on Friday that could be the return. So he's back to practicing fully, has done some contact at practice now, which is new as of yesterday. So all good signs, all trending in the right direction, and he is traveling with the team. So he will be in the bench in New Orleans, which he hasn't been with the team thus far.
All right, another one coming in. Mike checking in. Bradley Beal has yet to play, right? He hasn't played this year, correct?
I believe he did. We have not seen the trio on the
All
floor
three
together.
together. That's what it was.
Yeah.
You're right. He has played. Okay.
Yeah, 3 games Bradley Beal has played, but yeah, we haven't seen all 3 of them together yet.
Last time out was on November 12th. He played 30 minutes, scored 15. Friday against the Lakers back on the 10th. He went back to back, so he went 24 and 15 in both of those games. And now he's dealing with more lower back pain. It's tough, man. That's tough. Yeah, they're always out. They're always dealing with some sort of injury. So, all right. Something to keep our eyes on there. All right, great stuff, Sean Barnard. Can't thank you enough. Picks and roll. If you ever miss it, always available at foxphlgambler.com. And as always, be sure to follow Sean at Sean_Barnard1. That is the number 1. That will do it for us here today. Don't go anywhere though. More Daily Ticket back after this.